Life will have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Account for Life podcast. Today, this is the final part, how to turn prayer into prosperity, part number 3. Guys, I've been blessed immensely. I've been like my prosperity has grown just in the time that I've been sharing with you guys over the past 3 days, man. This is almost like an out-of-body experience of jumping into the spiritual realm and working with God on a project. What is the project? Man, we're having surgery today on who we are and who we can become. So let's jump right into this. And yesterday and the day before, we established a foundation. We looked at the Word of God, and the two scriptures that we looked at was in Mark chapter 11, and then that was the account where Jesus is talking to the disciples, and starting at verse number 22 all the way down to verse 26. You want to just go read this over and over. So that's Mark chapter 11 from 22 down to 26. But the premise of that verse is simple. In verse number 24, therefore I say unto you, whatever things you desire when you pray, believe you have received them and you shall have them. Oh, Lord, help me, Jesus. Man, do you feel that? I do. I feel that. And then lastly, in 3 John chapter 1 and verse number 2, beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper, be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So guys, how to turn prayer into prosperity. One of the things that I mentioned yesterday and was when you establish contact with God, with the God in you, things begin to happen. When you just establish that. And so I share with you how I've been establishing contact with God on my walks. I walk 10,000 plus steps every single day except Saturday. So I do Sunday through Friday, every day. That's over 60,000 steps every single week, which actually has been turned around, I think around almost 70,000 a week. That's a lot of steps. That's a lot of moving around, which I don't have to do that. Like, I really don't have to do that, but I do it. And the reason why I'm learning, I'm doing it. It's establishing contact with God. I've been establishing this contact with God where I'm seeing who God said I am. You want to establish contact with God? You want to turn prosperity into prayer? Okay, look, in this series, I'm not teaching you like some prayer framework. Look, got to get this book, Pray the Kingdom Way. Pray the Kingdom Way by Julia Winston. You want to learn how to pray? Like, literally, she gives frameworks and prayers and all kinds. Get that book. In this, we just got some words for you. When you establish contact with the God in you, right? When you establish contact with the God in you, things begin to happen. All right. So I shared yesterday that it's a decision that has to be made. So today we're going to go further into this decision and how that looks when it comes to praying and being prosperous. What is a decision? You know what that is? Decision. And I used to didn't know what decision meant. I used to think decision and commitment were the same thing. I used to. Like, oh, it seems like the same thing, I'm committed. No, you got to make a decision. That decision cuts off all choices, cuts off all things. Sometimes like I told my students just this week, I said, hey, because somebody asked a question, oh, I'm having a hard time picking a niche. I said, just pick, you just gotta pick one. You don't have to decide that this is the end all be all. You can always change. And I said, look, I've worked with this industry, I've worked with that industry, I did with that kind of person, this kind of person. And I just picked, work with them. Oh, I don't like that one. Oh, picked another one. So you don't have to do that. I said, so, but you do have to make a decision that you're just going to pick, and you're not going to care. So making a decision and making a commitment, totally different. Commitment is kind of like I can change. Decision, you have nothing to change to, because you got rid of everything. It's kind of when I decided to get married, I had to get rid of everything, right? I had to get rid of everything. I just got a wife, just one wife. I got to deal with it. Oh my goodness, it's hard, man. My dad didn't tell me nothing. He just let me get married. They just let me get married. They didn't tell me anything. They didn't say, they didn't, my dad didn't say, son, I'm telling you, man, you're going to have some, man, you got to look out for this. No, he didn't tell me anything. So you got to make a decision, right? And when you make a decision, here's what happens. Imagine this, you made a decision. Some people struggle. Oh, I want to start a business. And they don't start the business. But starting a business could potentially make you more prosperous, make you more rich than you are today. Starting a business could do that. Yeah. But it seems more risky, Jay. Well, if you make a decision to understand what a business is and how it can help you, and you make a decision about what it is you can, what problem you could potentially solve, then it's simple. Not going to use easy, because easy is relative. There ain't nothing easy. I love what Jim Rohn saying about easy. Jim Rohn, what did he say? He says, if you do the things that are easy, your life will be hard. And if you do the things that are hard, your life will be easy. So starting a business is hard. So that means that if I start a business, my life will get easier? Absolutely. But there's no guarantees. There's never a guarantee. But when you make a decision that you ain't going to stop until you get what you came for, you have to get it. What did Jesus say? Let's go back to what Jesus said. He says, therefore I say unto you, what things soever you desire, when you pray, believe you receive them, and you shall have them. He didn't say you could just have one thing. He says whatever things. Oh, I love these things, right? Because the thing about this prayer, the thing about what this is not even a prayer, but the thing about what he is saying about prayer is so interesting, because, when I said that I know prayer changes things, because I'm one of those things, like, what do you think will have to change first? You got to change first. Prayer can change and maintain your health. The first thing that changes is the one who prays. The first thing that changes is the one who prays. All change begins with changing yourself. How to pray, how to turn prayer into prosperity is changing yourself. When we started this podcast a few years ago, account for your life, right? Account for your life. And, my brother, it's funny, he said he was watching, he'd watch my podcast, he'd listen to my podcast. And he says, Jay, man, like, he pretty much says, Jay, you talk with so much authority on this. Like, you talk with authority is what he's saying. I want you to think about this. When you pray, you are gaining authority over something God has given you. I'm going to say that again. When you pray, you are gaining authority over what God has already given you. See, because it's kind of like if I have some set asides for my kids, the more communication my kids have with me, the more they'll learn about what I got set aside for them. What do you think about that? But if they're not talking to me, they won't understand what's set aside. They won't understand what daddy's working on, what daddy worked on their behalf. They won't understand the gifts that I got waiting for them. No way they will understand it. They're going to be out there. Oh, they're doing that thing and they're doing it. And then it's hard. And, one day they come back and they say, well, Dad, and they start talking to me. I'm like, I wish you would have came earlier. What do you think God is saying? God says this to us. I wish you would have came earlier. Like, dude, you could have saved yourself years. I'm thinking about the years that I lost, wasted. Well, on the other hand, the reason why I'm saying wasted because it happened already. However, that time that I gave away for my learning, I love the fact that I learned, right? And when I say that, what I mean is that I love the fact that I made the mistakes. I love the fact that I did not focus in on the connection, even though at some point I was connecting, but I kept severing, I kept cutting the connection off. Recently somebody asked me to do something for them, and I said, I can't do that. Now, luckily they know me and they understood. As soon as they asked me, hey, can you do this thing? I said, I can't do it. That's the first time I said, I can't do that. And then immediately he knew what I meant because anytime I do something, or if someone asks me to do something that I know is not ethical or not right, I know what the God in me already said. You can't do that. What you doing? So I got to hold myself accountable to the fact of who God already told me I am. And if God already told me I am, that ain't the person. That person at some point was around, but I had to say no to that person because that person got me into a lot of trouble, And so we want to turn prayer into prosperity, but we got to change. We got to change. We have to become the person that God said we are, right? All change begins with yourself. I just love the way Paul wrote it in Romans chapter 12. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Okay, so this is the last part of this series. How to turn prayer into prosperity is the renewal of your mind through a transformation, through a metamorphosis that literally turns you into something brand new. Turns you into something brand new. Oh, I got this new book. It's on transformation. And the premise that's running in the book is what happens to a caterpillar. What happens to a caterpillar? A caterpillar is one of the most amazing, yet I'm talking about it's a simple creature, but it's amazing because it's teaching us how to go from being one thing to something totally new. I got a picture. I was on my walk 3 days ago. And as I was walking, I saw like a butterfly, right? But it looked like a leaf. I'm like, it looked like a leaf was flying. I'm like, what is a leaf? Is that a leaf? But it was flying slow. I'm like, what's going on? So then it was almost like it was flying towards me, and then it just stopped and just went to the ground and just sat there. And I went to it. I put my foot next to it. Didn't move. I got a picture of it. I took a video of it, and I was like, oh shoot, like it's waiting for me. So I took a picture, took a video, and I looked at it. I don't know what that butterfly looked like before, but what I didn't know is that it fully transformed. It was at the early stage. I think it was at the early stages. Like it still had some growth, but it had turned into what it was going to be. See, when we transform our life, right? When Paul wrote that down and says, "Be not conformed to the world," but before he said that, he told us what to do. This is the last part here. What did he tell us to do? What I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. When the phone rings while I'm doing stuff, this is so annoying. In chapter 12 of verse number 1 of Romans. Thank you. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you should present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. This is your reasonable service. See, what is prosperity, guys? Let's just say it. Prosperity is being rich. If you put your North Star, if you put your target on prosperity, prosperity is being rich. Is it more than rich? Yeah, it's more than rich. If we were just making it plain for everybody who kind of knows what that word is, that's what they would associate prosperity with, being rich. Would you like to be prosperous? Would you like to be rich in health and wealth and in your body, in your family, in all the things around you? Would you like that today? I do. Raise your hand today. Say yes. Listen, say yes today. Say yes. He says it's your reasonable service to offer your life. Now, he said, body, get the body, your whole life. He said, offer your body. Offer your body. Offer your life as a sacrifice. Die is what he said. You must die. A sacrifice dies. You must die. See, we want to turn prayer into prosperity without dying. You're going to have to die in order to be prosperous. At least in this framework. There may be some other frameworks where you don't have to die, some other ways that people teach this thing. Well, today, this is how we're teaching it. Die first. When you turn into the butterfly, when you become this new thing, he says, don't be conformed. He says, do not. I think the NIV says, don't conform to the pattern of the world, right? Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When you come under the mindset that Jesus had, right? He had a mindset, and he's teaching in the mindset of being God in the flesh. And he's teaching this mindset, and he's saying, whatsoever you desire, and you go in prayer and you ask God for it, it is yours. Prosperous. Whatever you desire. But our minds have to change. We must transform our lives, because what happens is you become a person who knows God's will for your life. That's what the text is saying. You will know. He says you will be able to prove it. I can prove to you. I can prove to you that. Here's what I can prove to you. I can prove to you when I made contact with the God in me, everything changed. When I made contact with the God in me, everything changed. What about you? Have you made contact with the God in you today? How are you going to turn prayer? How can you turn prayer into prosperity? Get contact with the God in you. Offer your life so that that old life dies, so that the new life is totally transformed into the mind that Christ gave us, so that when we desire something in prayer, we believe that we'll have them and we get it, so that we might live this prosperous life that says, beloved, I wish above all things that you, right, would prosper, be in good health, even as your soul prospers. This is how you turn prayer into prosperity. Guys, I appreciate you joining me for this series of the Account for Life podcast, How to Turn Prayer into Prosperity. God bless you, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.
Joining us, listening friends, we are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time,